Okay, before I went out to the gym today, I decided to open a page of The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Pretty excellent author, I'm not gonna lie. He's pretty good. I would definitely suggest it if you're looking for ways to get more wisdom and perseverance, right? So the first chapter started off with a quote by Epictetus, one Stoic philosopher. He said, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and to separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then I look for good and evil, not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself to the choices that are my own." Right? And I think with this quote, it pretty much says, in my understanding, is that we should first be able to be aware of what is in our control and what is not, and also try to inhibit our innate action of responding with emotional actions or just an emotional reaction, rather than responding with an answer to solve our issues at the moment, right? I think it happens a lot in our common lives and something that we tend to avoid. But then we go back into this quote, and then sometimes I think it's a quote that is something that we don't. I think this quote is something that we all are aware of, and it's something that we already know, but we often forget at times of stress and at times of quick thinking, right? Because then we just go back into our innate way of just reacting and then solving the issue. Meanwhile, taking a longer time on the actual reaction rather than the actual resolving of the issue. So, to continue with this story, once I had a friend, well, I do have a friend that was saving up to buy a car, right? He already has his own apartment and he just needed a car just to get to point A to B without having to spend much money on an Uber. So he's been working hard for months and months and months on end, like literally every second, every day of the week, just busy working, trying to save up as much money, trying to accumulate as much money as he could. He oftentimes wasn't able to go to parties and dinners and important events, with family and friends, just because he was working to save up for this car. Months down the line, he finally saves up, he finally gets the amount of money he needs to buy a car. He buys the car, he was so happy, he calls me, he tells me, "Yeah man, I did it, I finally did it, man, it just feels so good." And I felt very happy for him and very grateful that he was able to do it on his own, and he finally felt like he was achieving, right? He was going in the right direction. But then, a week later, at night, he hears a noise outside. Opens the curtain, sees through the window. He sees his gate is wide open, and like 3 strangers are all around his car. So you can clearly guess that they're trying to steal the car. He opens the window and panic screams, "Hey, what are you doing?" Literally, the guys just stopped and just scattered. Like they just panicked and then just ran away, right? And he was still under panic. He was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe these guys are trying to steal something that I've been waiting for months and just take it away like it was nothing." No, literally, he starts calling the police. He calls the neighbors, waking them up, telling them that there are criminals around the house and that they should be aware because maybe they would also have that same issue, right? And in general, he was also looking for help because he didn't know what to do. He was worried if the guys were armed or something like that, so he couldn't go out there and deal with the situation himself, and he didn't even have any weapons himself. So then, hours later, the police comes. They write a report. They're like, "Okay, what happened?" He explains the situation as calm as he could, but he was still under shock because this is the first time someone's actually robbing him out of his car, something so expensive. So he was trying to say it as calmly as possible, and the police in his country they're not very vigilant in terms of these things. Like, they didn't really care too much because the car wasn't actually stolen, as well as they don't really see it as a big deal. Like, even if your car got stolen, like, big whoop, get another one. Like, that's to them. Or if you have insurance, then that's perfect for you, according to them, you know. So they're like, oh, okay, how many guys? Are you sure there were anyone that they're actually trying to steal the car? And then he was like, the gate was open. They were all around my car. What do you think was gonna happen? I actually caught them in the moment. Like, the cops were like, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, you're stressed, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't really take it that deep. They just said, okay, you know what? Next time this happens, like, get an alarm for a car, you know, get like a personal security and also maybe a tracker. So then, you know, if it does get stolen, then you'll be able to find it. And that's all they could do. And he was kind of upset because that was all they can do. Like, he wanted them to go find the guys and like already put them in jail, as anyone else would, you know, because stealing is wrong, right? We all grew up to know that stealing is wrong. So then later on, not even later on, after that second in the morning, he was like, okay, he called the people to put in a tracker. He even ordered 4 clamps to put on every tire just to make sure that car wasn't going anywhere. He even put a lock on the gates, right? So that every night he would actually put it on so that no one could come in, no one could go out. Like, that was the deal. And that was quite smart of him to do, you know. And that was the whole point of him following that actual rule of like actually not reacting too much about it. Well, he was a bit over dramatic, but who wouldn't be? But he actually took action, you know, and that actually makes me think, how many of us forget to do that part, to actually take action? How many of us would actually focus on just the whole traumatic experience itself? You know, sometimes I think most of us would rather just dwell on the fact that something bad happened to us and just be so frustrated by it, like as if we just concentrate enough on that frustration, maybe it won't happen again and we won't have to do anything physical about it. You know, sometimes I feel like that. Like, if I was in that position, I'd also feel like that, you know. So it's very important for us to to remember. It's very important for us to remember that, yeah, we can't control what happened. What happened has happened. What is done is done. Now, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to choose to stay reacting to it, or are we going to choose to actually find solutions to that current problem? Let me know if this situation has ever happened to you too, and what did you do about it? And in this situation, what would you have done better if it was possible to rewind back to that time? It's almost nearly 10 minutes. Let me know. See ya.